How you doing? All right. Hey guys, how you doing? I'm gonna do a little tour here today. I am in Lower Manhattan. I'm actually in the financial district. And you're probably thinking, hey Tom, you've already done the financial district. You did it like 5 years ago, 6 years ago or something like that. Well, first of all, get a life. Second of all, I did it a long time ago and I didn't do it right. So I gotta do it over again. Either way, you can watch it. I walked around a little bit, but this one is gonna give you into we're gonna get into history. We're gonna get into all the spots of the financial district, get you a real sense so that when you come here with your family, you can point stuff out and pretend you knew it the whole time. Huh? And I won't even ask you for a reference or any kind of, citation. So anyways, I'm rambling. Phil, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, man. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, good to be back.
All right, well, we're going to get started. Before we start, guys, check out the Patreon. Huge help. Speaking of financial district, Patreon's how we fund these things. Also, too, like and subscribe. Get it out of the way now. It'll give you all the free time in the world to just sit back and eat your protein crisps or whatever you're eating while you watch these and, get started. Anyways, I'm rambling. We're in Zuccotti Park. I'm gonna keep it moving. Get through the history of the old financial district of New York City. Ooh, what do you think, Phil? Should we get going?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. So look at us, we are getting started here. Of course, we're gonna start on Wall Street. This is the east-west thoroughfare here. It's called Wall Street because there was a wall built here. Huh? Go figure. In 1653, Peter Stuyvesant built this wall to protect the colony of New Amsterdam from the British. Not the Native Americans like everyone always says, it's the British. They were fighting the British back and forth, total mess. So he built this wall in 1653. Well, he didn't technically build it. You can imagine who did. But built in 1653, it was here till 1699 when the British tore it down. But is today kind of the center of the financial district for many reasons, which we will cover here in this walk. But like I said, it was New Amsterdam until 1664 when the British took it over. It was renamed New York after James, Duke of York, who was Charles II's brother, who was the king at the time. James eventually became king himself. Good for him. But I digress. You guys knew all that, right? A good amount of people actually live in the financial district today. Actually had a friend of mine who used to work for Deutsche Bank. He lived on a penthouse here, right on Broad Street. His patio was bigger than my entire apartment by many, many times. Had a little basketball court for his kid on there. Good for him. Good for him. Okay, so we were just talking about how Wall Street was a thing, or how it became a thing initially, but remember, this is all near the water, the South Street Seaport, right? Covered that in a video, you can watch that. But because of that, this is where all trade and stuff happened as well. I'm actually standing next to a marker that shows where a slave market, a municipal slave market run by the city, was created in 1711, November 30th, 1711. It was actually here until 1762. Don't forget that slavery was a huge thing here in New York. This is a market for people. Crazy. But you forget New York actually was a huge slaveholding city. In fact, the highest concentration of people who had slaves behind only Charleston, South Carolina. Yeah, that Charleston is the second highest concentration of people who owned slaves. In fact, in New York by 1730, 42% of people here had at least one slave. It's kind of insane. In fact, in Flatbush, got up to the 70s, the percent of people and families who had at least one slave. And that's kind of crazy to wrap your head around. It's all pretty depressing. So here's a picture of my cat. There you go. But yeah, this is an important part of the market and the actual commerce that was happening here in the 1700s. Remember, slavery wasn't outlawed in New York until 1827, just a little bit before the Civil War. But yeah, this is a lot of stuff going on. Important thing to show. This is and they actually had to fight to get this marker put here in like 2014. Remember, this is the financial district, lots of commerce and things happening here historically, but this was part of it. So what do you think of that, Phil? That's pretty dark, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
Pretty insane, baby. Okay, so gonna talk to you guys about another reason why this is called the financial district. His name is Alexander Hamilton. That's right. I'm actually in the Trinity Churchyard where he's buried. Look at that little white obelisk. See all the tourists over there? Didn't have any idea who he was until that show came out. Not like us diehards. He's one of the big reasons why this financial district, because behind me, you have his burial site, obviously, but behind that, you have this building That was actually finished in 1930. It was initially the Irving Trust Building, but then became the Bank of New York Building in 1988 until 2015. Bank of New York started in 1784 by Alexander Hamilton. Now, a little bit of background. You have the American Revolution and the War of Independence that started, obviously everyone knows the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. But Hamilton was actually the first Treasury Secretary of the United States once Washington became president. And it was him who kind of organized the financial system of the United States, in addition to starting the Bank of New York. So the War of Independence ends. Who won that one, by the way, huh? Anyways, he takes over Treasury Secretary and he assumes the debts of the states to the federal government. That was kind of what he wanted. He wanted a strong, robust federal government. In fact, he actually made a compromise with Thomas Jefferson and James Madison to move the capital out of New York, which Hamilton wanted here, but he wanted to have the debts and the power, financial power in the federal government's hands more. So Thomas Jefferson and Madison said, all right, fine, you could have that as long as we get the capital out of this godforsaken commercial hellhole of New York. And that's what happened. That's why it's in DC now. Look at that, you're learning stuff. By the way, Hamilton was one of the people who pitched the whole Constitution and the federal system through his Federalist Papers, along with James Madison, actually, and John Jay. That's how he pitched the Constitution. Everyone was voting on it and all this stuff. People had to get on board, man. All these states were kind of their own thing, and they're like, nah, I don't know if I trust the federal government or anything. Good thing that's changed. Everyone trusts the federal government now. But that was one of the ways he pitched it, was through basically these essays and books known as the Federalist Papers. That's how they pitched things back then, man. Can you believe that? People were actually like, yeah, let me read this whole thing. Today, you can't get people to watch a TikTok of yours. Back then, people read and wrote whole books. So he basically assumes the debts, the financial system becomes part of the federal government, and he's buried right here. Another thing he did was he created the U.S. Mint. You guys know Alexander Hamilton created the U.S. Mint. Guy wasn't even born in the United States. I guess no one was because it wasn't in the country yet, but he was actually born in the Caribbean and he came over here and created the U.S. Mint. Now he's on the $10 bill. I'm going to show you a $10 bill. I just got a 1 and a 5. All right, well, I guess I'll just have to make do with that. That's a good time to plug the Patreon. Yeah, he's on the $10 bill. All right, well, that's it, guys. Let's keep it moving, huh? Okay, so now I'm standing in front of what is pretty much the reason why this is all the financial, well, big part of it, okay? We've covered a few other places too. This is the New York Stock Exchange. That's right, Wall Street and Broad, baby. This was built in 1903. George Post designed it, very beautiful. You got the strength and assuredness. It's supposed to inspire you to put your money in there, not lose it, hopefully. It's the biggest stock exchange in the world by volume. I think it's a $28 trillion market cap. Yeah, it's a lot of money. Market cap. Go around saying that a lot around here. Just be like, oh yeah, 28 trillion market cap. They'll think you know what you're talking about. The stock exchange actually originated with people trading securities to pay back the debts of the American Revolution. We already talked about Hamilton a little bit. That's kind of where it originated. 1792, there was a thing called the Buttonwood Agreement. They used to trade under a buttonwood tree. This is actually why there's a little tree there that they keep. A little buttonwood tree to kind of commemorate the humble beginnings of this humble organization. 1817, they chartered everything, made it all official. 1865, it moves to this spot. 1903, it moved to this building. Keep in mind that before they had all these buildings and everything for the stock exchange, they used to trade these in a coffee shop. They used to trade all the securities in a coffee shop. Can you imagine that? Like, it's already annoying enough going to a coffee shop and some guy has bought a tea and is just sitting in one spot for 4 hours working on a screenplay that's never gonna get made. You had to go back then and you'd go people trading securities for the United States. Anyways, that's what it was. It was a coffee shop here on Wall Street before, so this is now much more official. So keep in mind there were a lot of things that helped the stock exchange to become more important and bigger. So for example, 1867, you had the stock ticker created, which is a big deal. It made the prices and things much more quick for people to realize all that stuff. 1878, telephones were installed. That also made things move much more quickly. So the market has grown much more quickly and exponentially over time. This is also the spot where on October 28th, 1929, Black Monday, the stock market crash. Whoa, it all started right here. Just to give you an idea what happened, 12% of the market one day, the next day 13%. By mid-November 1932, 89% of the stock market value had just disappeared. It wasn't until the 1950s that the pre-stock market crash levels were able to come back. Kind of insane how bad it was. And today it's a much healthier market, I guess. Like I said, $28 trillion market cap. So these numbers are not even real, man. $28 trillion market cap. What does that even mean? $28 trillion. That's wild. To give you an idea of that number, if you took 28 trillion $1 bills and lined them up end to end, you would have completely wasted $28 trillion, you idiot. Give me some of that money, you freak. $28 trillion. You join the Patreon or something, there's a $1 trillion a month level tier. You'll get a coffee mug. I promise you that. But yeah, anyways, this is the stock exchange. This is one of the big reasons why this neighborhood is the financial district. Let's keep it moving, baby. I'm freezing. All right, so now I'm on Wall Street here in front of the former Merchants Exchange building. This is actually designed, well, so it was actually built in two parts. The lower part was actually built after the Great Fire of 1835. So in case you don't know, there was this humongous fire in 1835 called the Great Fire. 23 blocks, 700 buildings in this area burnt to a crisp, baby. It was so cold that they couldn't, bring water through the hoses at all. Everything froze. Like it's negative 17 or something. It was nuts. It was called the Great Fire too because insurance companies after that, they built it up, made it this huge thing. Remember PR. There's, the one thing more American than high fructose corn syrup is public relations, baby. You got to build it up so like insurance companies were making it this huge thing and saying that they did the best and that they all did all this. So anyways, it became this legendary fire, 1835. In fact, that was part of the reason why the last Trinity Church fell down. But I digress. So Merchants Exchange, this building was built after the Great Fire. Later on in the early 1900s, the second top part was built by McKim, Mead & White. Lower part, Isaiah Rogers, a proper, colonist name, Isaiah Rogers. It sounds, you can hear the slavery that guy probably had at his place. Anyways, that's, So Isaiah Rogers, lower part, McKim, White, top part. In case you don't know, McKim, White's like the most famous, architecture firm in the history in New York City. If you ever get like an architecture trivia question at barroom trivia, just say McKim, White in New York. You probably get it right. You're welcome. So yeah, this is the Merchants Exchange. Was they traded commodities, they did all kinds of. It was actually home to the New York Stock Exchange briefly for a while, offices, all that kind of stuff. Remember, this area right next to the water. This is where everything kind of was hashed out. You had different, offices and customs. All these things kind of took place here as well. The customs was actually in this building too, back in the day. And today you can see that it is a Cipriani, very fancy, like a rich dude's Olive Garden, right? Right, Phil?
Hell yeah.
All right, well, yeah, so Merchants Exchange. A lot of people walk by this building, they're like, oh, that looks important. I wonder what that is. Well, that's what it used to be, the Merchants Exchange building. So let's keep it moving. We still got more to cover. We talked about, the exchanges and all this stuff, but what about the government's involvement, huh? Well, I'm right in front of the Federal Reserve Bank for New York. So the Federal Reserve System was actually started in 1913 as a way to centralize, but also not totally central. It's actually decentralized too. So there's actually 12 different banks, in different commercial regions of the United States. The whole idea is to give each of them a place where all the banks in that area can get money, pretty much. Now they're run kind of by semi-private group, bunch of people. There's appointed board of commissioners, all this stuff. It's a whole thing. I'm sorry, board of governors and all that. But this is the New York Bank. This was actually built in 1924, York and Sawyer, very pretty, very thick, very strong. That's the whole idea. In fact, underground right now, it's like 2 football fields worth of gold bullion. That's gold bricks for you commoners. There's about 508,000 gold bars underground right now. Phil, did you know that?
I had no idea.
Each one of those bars is worth like $640,000. These freaking massive bars down there. In fact, have you ever seen the movie Die Hard with a Vengeance?
Yes.
That was where they robbed.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
come on, right here, man. That's where Jeremy Irons came, and Bruce Willis stopped them with Samuel L. Jackson's help. An early film of his. Anyways, it's here that the gold is stored for a lot of the central banks in the world, actually. This is the biggest collection of gold in any one spot in the world, believe it or not. More than Fort Knox. That's right, it's like $330 billion worth of gold bricks and bullion here. Kind of nuts. Basically like a bank, 4 banks. So like the Bank of China, all that stuff, they all have basically deposits here of gold. In fact, this is a crazy story. In 2016, February 2016, it was actually ripped off. $81 million was stolen from the Federal Reserve. Basically, these hackers hacked into the Bangladesh central bank and pretended to withdraw 101 million, actually a total of 951 million, but they caught it before it got to that high. 5 of the 35 requests they made were actually approved, totaling $101 million. 20 million were rejected because they misspelled foundation, and they spelled it fundation, which goes to show you, all you kids, you aspiring criminals, you still got to learn how to spell. You're in school like, I'm just going to be a criminal. No, you guys still got to learn to spell. You're going to miss out on $20 million. Anyways, $81 million they were actually able to get away with. It was all like sent to individuals. They basically just made these requests and the bank honored them, which is insane. They didn't catch any of the like irregularities and everything because, believe it or not, at that time, 2016, they had worse fraud detection than basically your credit card. So when you're on a date and you actually take someone to some fancy place and they reject your card and embarrass you in front of your date, that's better security than they have at the Federal Reserve. Isn't that insane? And I'm not speaking from experience, okay? But anyways, yeah, they got away with $81 million. It was sent to a bunch of Philippine banks and made its way into the casino industry there, which wasn't basically, you know, policed for money laundering, all that stuff, and gone. So somewhere in the world, there's a handful of people, most likely men, let's be honest. They're the criminals, right? I don't know. And they're just, you know, they're always saying yes to extra guac. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, I got ripped off in 2016. How about that? What a cool story for the Federal Reserve. So, you know, dream big, I guess. And yeah, there's, like I said, there's a ton of gold bars and stuff underneath, which, I don't know, if you stole one of those, what are you going to do with that? You know, you're going to take it to like Buffalo Exchange or something. I don't know where you actually try to get that redeemed or whatever, but, you know, it's there and it's protected, baby. You better believe it. Ooh, Lord, there is some security. Pretty wild to think about it. At the Federal Reserve of New York was basically, you know, it's like someone asked to borrow its smartphone and then Venmo'd themselves $101 million. That's pretty much what happened. Well, it was more $81 million, but you get it. All right, well, this is the Federal Reserve Bank, another big important part of the financial district. We're bouncing around, we're hanging, we got more stuff to cover, so let's go. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the semi-private Federal Reserve, but I'm now in front of a more private building. Well, at least historically, it was built in 1914 as J.P. Morgan's headquarters. Oh, it was designed by Trowbridge and Livingston. Very beautiful little building. It's actually mostly vacant today. So this building was actually built in 1914. It was actually finished about a year after J.P. Morgan died, and then his son, J.P. Morgan Jr., Jack, took over. Because when you're the son of, you know, the head of the biggest bank in the entire world, you know, you take over the family business. You don't exactly move to Korea to teach English. So he took over and was here for a little while. The J.P. Morgan headquarters is actually over on Park Avenue. They're building this big new building on 270 Park Avenue. It looks straight out of, you know, a superhero villain headquarters. It looks like, you know, like freaking Lex Luthor or something lives in this thing. It's actually made from material that if you put your ears up against the material, you can actually hear human screams. Pretty impressive. This building was actually, like I said, built in 1914. And obviously a lot of people had a lot of problems with the guy. Very cocky. In fact, when they finished it, one of the things they said was like, wow, there's no sign that says that it's J.P. Morgan. Their response was, well, if you're doing business with J.P. Morgan, you already know this is here. And if you don't know, you don't deserve to know. All right, pretty cool, dude. Rock and roll. But actually, one of the reasons why people hated them so much is that, not only that, but also very, I guess, arrogant. 1920, just so you guys know, September 1920, they parked a carriage of like 1,000 pounds of explosives right here and detonated it on at like noon during rush hour. People were going to get their lunch and stuff, and it was just detonated and killed like 36 people, you know, like 100 people injured. And they basically cleaned it up immediately and had everything basically, you know, picked up just to show everybody it was going to take more than a couple bombs to stop J.P. Morgan from doing business. In the process, they actually eliminated a lot of evidence and everything, so that's what hubris can get you, but that was sending a message. And they actually left the pockmarks in the wall to show you a little bit of, you know, they're still there. Yeah, you can see where all the projectiles and stuff hit. Kind of wild, right during lunch hour. There's people coming back from lunch being like, yeah, I've been starting to eat more salad lately, you know, it's good, even though it does have fried chicken in it and everything, I think it is more healthy, and then boom, you know, you're in the middle of explaining your salad, if it's sweet green, you blow up. And they never actually found who did it. Communist revolution had just happened, a lot of different things going on, and they believe that it was Italian anarchists who detonated. In fact, one of the reasons why it didn't do any damage was because the wall is like 7 feet thick, because they actually built this little building. It looks kind of small, but they built it being able to sustain dozens of floors more if they needed. J.P. Morgan, you know, at the time, very powerful figure. He died in 1913. Kind of wild, though. You think about it. Lesson there, guys. No matter what you do in life, no matter how hard you work, how famous you become, you die. That's kind of comforting, isn't that, Phil?
Very.
I mean, it really makes you think, you know, it's like people, they work their asses off just to become all these powerful people and boss people around and stuff, and you're gonna end up worm food.
Yep.
So, anyways, we're only getting started, baby. Let's keep it moving. All right, so I'm just hanging out here, totes cash, in front of the Charging Bull of Wall Street, another icon here in the neighborhood. This is a very important piece. This kind of helps define the neighborhood. An important date for this one, October 19th, 1987. That was a day known as Black Monday. Ooh, scary. The New York Stock Exchange lost 23% of its value in one day. Everyone freaked the hell out. They thought they thought it was going to be the beginning of another Great Depression, or at least like a decent depression, I guess. But it ended up bouncing back. How great is that? Wow, look at that. Bounced back, and to commemorate this, one guy was watching very closely and thought, hey, this is a really cool thing that it bounced back from this. His name was Arturo Domodica. He was an immigrant from Sicily. He was a sculptor, Vittoria Ticili. Sorry, and he actually came here and he became a sculptor. That's what his thing was, and he made a charging bull out of bronze, 3.5 tons of bronze, on his own dime, by the way. So this guy had kind of made a name for himself, leaving pieces all around the city. In fact, in 1977, he left 8 sculptures at Rockefeller Center when the show that he was doing here in Lower Manhattan didn't do so well. Pretty smart, because they all got bought up. And he also did the same thing in 1985 with a big, horse, actually, at Lincoln Center. So he knew what to do. All this to say that in 1989, December 15th, 1989, in the middle of the night, this guy goes over to the New York Stock Exchange and just leaves this bull there with a big bow on it. There was a Christmas tree there because it was during the Christmas days, and the people from the New York Stock Exchange came the next day, saw this thing, and were like, what the hell is this? We didn't ask for this. Get this thing out of here. They're scratching it. Can we make money off this? No, get it out of here. So they basically sent it to Queens to get impounded, and the city found out about it. So there was like this big scramble to find somewhere to put it. The Bowling Green people, Parks people, and Domodica decided to just put it right here. And it's been here ever since. It's now like a model, and it's a symbol of the neighborhood. Talk about financial district. There's no financial district without the Charging Bull. And behind me, you can see all the people taking pictures with the bull's balls. That's right. Look at that. Nothing. The one thing more universal than money is jokes about nuts. Huh? As the two universal languages in the world, I guess. And the reason he chose a bull is because it is a symbol for a bull market, a market that's on the rise as opposed to a bear market, which is on the decline. Bull market, it's called a bull market because the bull attacks you going up with its horns, right? And a bear gets up on its hind legs and attacks you going down. Look at that, your mind must be freaking blown right now. Good Lord. And also remember, he left this piece, it was never commissioned, it was nothing, he's kind of a gift of his. So that goes to show it has become a humongously famous piece. And it just shows you that's how you make art. You just got to leave art around, and eventually, it'll become famous. Maybe I should leave some pieces around. But yeah, this is the old Charging Bull of Wall Street, baby. We got to keep it moving, man. It's freezing. I'm gonna start getting sick. I don't want to get sick. All right, let's keep it moving, Phil. Come on. Oh, oh well, we had ourselves a time. Look at us. We're back to where we started. Good old Zuccotti Park. Speaking of which, September 2011, this is where Occupy Wall Street started. Did you know that, Phil?
No.
I came down a few times. Pretty cool. So just so you guys know, Occupy Wall Street started here. It was here till November when they brutally ended it. But, it was a pretty cool, exciting protest against corporate greed and corruption of the U.S. government. This is a little bit after the financial crisis and the response to the financial crisis. A lot of people are probably like, oh, what a waste of time, and that didn't accomplish anything. It actually changed the conversation significantly. The whole concept of 1%, the 99%, all that stuff, this kind of talk and focus on inequality wasn't happening that much before this. Even though there were people talking about it, but it didn't hit the mainstream. This kind of got it into the mainstream, and it spawned hundreds of other copycats around the world. Pretty wild. That's why they did it here, is because this is the financial district, and it is a symbol of commerce and business and finance here in the United States and the world, frankly. But that being said, I am rambling. Look at me. I'm just freezing and trying to stay warm. But we made it through. We covered the history of the financial district. We covered the early commerce history. We covered Wall Street. We talked about the New York Stock Exchange. We talked about the symbolism and things like the Charging Bull. Man, we had ourselves a day. Phil, did you learn something?
I learned a lot, man.
Yeah, it's good to have you back, man.
Good to be back.
Great. Enough of the sappy stuff. But yeah, man, thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, thank you. That's pretty cool, man. You guys sat through something that was over 20 minutes. Look at that. What if this was a vertical vid? You guys would have checked out about 20 minutes ago, 19 minutes and 50 seconds ago. But thank you for watching. Check out the Patreon. That's how you fund these things, all that stuff. Also, like and subscribe, all that. There's some extras on the Patreon too, huh? Don't forget that. So yeah, anyways, that's the video. We did it. I should probably move because I'm going to get on by a pigeon, that's for sure. And you should see some of the pigeons here. They've been through it, that's for sure. So, all right, guys, I'm out of here. Phil, let's get out of here.